Hi, Mr. Minnick here, helping my students with tracing for loop worksheet number 2. On this worksheet, we start with some questions where there's a for loop that has 2 parameters in the range function. We eventually get to some exercises where there are 3 parameters in the parentheses of the range function. Let's start with number 1. Sum is equal to 0, so that's been noted there. The loop variable I, when we hit this line of code for the first time, it gets set equal to 2, which is already pointed out here. It then goes through the body of the for loop, and we work from right to left. Sum plus 1, currently sum is 0, and 0 plus 1 is 1. That 1 plugs into sum, overwriting the 0, so we put that there. And it loops back up to the top. Because of the way the for loop works in this case, I automatically increments and has 1 added to it to bring it to the value 3. That's just what happens with range 2, 4. I automatically steps up by 1 from 2 to 3. We go through the loop again from right to left. Sum plus 1 would be 2. That 2 plugs into sum, and we then loop back up to the top again. Now let's go slow here because this is where it gets tricky. Because of the way the for loop works, I would increment to a 4. But because of this boundary number here, the second parameter, because that's 4, Python stops at this point and doesn't increment I. It doesn't iterate through the loop anymore. It stops. This was a very short-lived loop. We're finished with exercise 1. The final value of I is 3, and the final value of sum happens to be 2. Moving on, number 2, exercise 2. Sum equals 0, and I starts at 4, and now we do sum plus equals 1. That's just a shortcut way of writing the same line of code that we had here. So sum plus 1, well, sum is 0, and 0 plus 1 is 1. So we add 1 to sum, just like before. We loop back up to the top. I increases or steps by 1. It bumps up to 5. We go through the loop again, and we add 1 to sum. We go back up to the top of the loop. We bump I up by 1 more because of this range 4 to 7. 6 is less than 7, so that was perfectly fine. We go through the body of the loop again, and we execute the line sum plus equals 1, and that would take sum to 3. We loop back up to the top, but Python stops, because if we were to add the step amount of 1, if we were to add 1 to 6, it would actually hit this number, and that's not allowed when we have these range functions. I here never made it to 4. In this problem, I never makes it to 7. It stops at 6, and the sum variable ended up at a 3. Now we get to a new type of problem here where we have a third parameter in the parentheses of the range function. Here's how that works. Sum is 0, good. I begins at 2. Sum plus equals 1 causes this to have 1 added to it. We loop back up to the top. But instead of adding 1 to I, like we did in these other problems, because of this optional third number here in the parentheses, that's the step amount. So we add 2 to the loop variable I, bringing it to 4. And because 4 is not up to 10 yet, we go through the loop, and we add 1 to sum. We loop back up to the top. We add 2 to I to bring it to 6. 6 isn't at 10 yet, so we go through the body of the loop. Sum plus 1 is 3. We loop back up. We add 2 more. We're not at 10 yet, so we go through the loop and add 1 to sum. We loop back up to the top. And if we were to add 2 to I, we would be hitting the number 10, which is illegal. It stops at this point, It does not go through the body of the loop again, just like we didn't here in the last iterations, or the last would have been iterations. And this problem ends with a 4 here and an 8 here. Okay, I'll start you on exercise 4 and then let you do the rest of the worksheet yourself. In number 4, sum is 0. I begins at 10. Sum plus 1 is 1. I made that a little too large. And it loops back up to the top. The step amount here, the optional third parameter, is -1. So you add -1 to I, and that would make that 10 a 9. Is 9 down to 7 yet? No, it's not. So we go through the loop, and sum plus equals 1. We go back up to the top of the loop. We add -1 here to I. And is 8 down to 7 yet? No, it's not. So we go through the loop. We add 1 to sum. We loop back up to the top. If we were to add -1 this time to 8, it would bring us down to 7, which isn't allowed because that's sort of the boundary. So we stop here, and 3 is our final value for sum. Good luck with the rest of the worksheet.